good morning from a California perspective, and welcome to the February webinar, which was due 2 weeks ago, but we had other things getting in the way. And so I'm going to talk about building a world-class brand today, and this could be a topic that you could talk about and that I could talk about for hours and hours. Obviously, we're not going to do that. It's not a real long presentation slide-wise, but for those of you who can see this visually, I don't need to describe it. For those of you who are just listening, we have the word Forbes up, and which is just the printed word, which is a brand for the magazine, and things come to mind, Forbes 400 and the different Forbes rankings in business. The 400, of course, the wealthiest people in America, and they do world rankings and all kinds of stuff. You have a Walmart logo, a Google logo. And then you just have what is called the swoosh. And you look at it and you think Nike. You got the word Disney written out in that kind of fanciful lettering that they have. You have the Apple logo, which is simply the apple with a bite taken out of it. Mercedes-Benz, and we could have just the logo, the image, but they wrote the word underneath of it, Intel, and the word Sony. All of these companies have logos. And that's not a brand. Anybody can do a logo. But you think all kinds of things when, probably for Walmart, most of you just picture the store. I don't know if you picture the outside or picture walking in or picture standing in it with all the stuff that's there. And you think of Apple and you think of the phones and you think of the computers and you think of everything that goes into the monster that Apple is. Google's, of course, a conglomeration of companies, and it started with the search engine. And I remember the first time I heard it, the word Google, I thought, what a silly name. Now, of course, we talk about Googling things. Google it. And yeah, it's actually become a verb. And, and we could have Coca-Cola up there, and for a long time, and it's still, widespread. And somebody wants a soft drink, they say, I'll have a Coke. And some days they don't even mean a Coke. It means they want to go. It's kind of like some people say you want to go get coffee, you want to go get a Coke. It has a broad image and a substantial meaning in the marketplace, and it goes so far beyond just a simple image of the logo. And there's a point to that. The reason I'm emphasizing that twice is as we go through talking about this and talking about you, and this is not a conversation about WFG or Transamerica above that or Aegon above that. They all have their brand and their logos, and that's all well and good, but what about you? And so as we look at these things and you kind of ponder what significance this might have in impacting in a major way your business life, your personal life too. Let's switch the slides, and now we're going to go to faces. And you see the Alabama football coach. Yeah. His name is Nick Saban. You see a guy named Steve Jobs next to him holding up the first Apple phone, and think how much that's evolved. And then there's Donald Trump, seen by many as one thing or the other. And then you have Oprah. They may run for president against each other. Who knows? And then you have Gandhi. And you have Mother Teresa. 6 recognizable faces. And 3 of them deceased. And you think about, what do you think about when you look at Oprah? What do you think about when you look at Gandhi? What do you think about when you look at Nick Saban? I guess if you're an Auburn fan, you kind of think one thing looking at Nick Saban, or an LSU fan, or you name it. And if you weren't, rooting for Alabama, then this brings out one kind of feeling in you. But it's, you look at Mother Teresa's face and you think that aged, wrinkled, beautiful woman, who is so special. She was small in stature, simple, a nun, wore the nun's habit, and so there was no style per se, in the modern way of meaning that, certainly in the Hollywood way of meaning it. And yet her brand was so powerful, so distinct, trademarked by kindness and generosity and love and care and concern for others. Gandhi was a peaceful activist, that changed the direction of a nation and impacted, over 1 billion people in India, and impacted every one of them, and through several generations. And you think about, what does it mean to build a world-class brand? How do you do it? And then, of course, you start working on the question, what is your brand? And what does it mean? And so let's think about it. When people look at your face, like we look at these 6 faces up here, what thoughts do they think? They see you walk into a room. Are they excited about that? Does it bring a smile to their face? Does it bring a thought, what a jerk? I guess we could actually bring that reaction in different people at different times. None of us are perfect in the representation of our brand, but I want you to know, for Cindy and I, in our lives, I can't tell you that we went around thinking about it in just this terminology. It's a way of looking at it that I think, wow, what's my brand? Or what kind of brand are we going to project? But I think it's healthy for us to consider this, because it'll have such a huge impact on your relationship with people, especially people who don't know you very well. I mean, I don't know Oprah, I don't know Donald Trump, I don't know any of these people. I've seen Steve Jobs. Obviously, we've seen all these people, but I'm talking about in person. And because I live in Silicon Valley, it just happens. And as you think about this, and as you look at that, you are going to create a feeling in others, and I think we need to be a little bit more serious in how we do this. I have so many thoughts about this. I have to keep myself focused and organized. So I'm going to switch slides again and talk about and ask the question, what is your brand? And you build a world-class brand by being aware of what it is you project. And the first question, I think, and probably the most important, is what do you stand for? I mean, really, what do you stand for? You have some people that say, well, I stand for winning, and that's great. We all probably want to stand for winning. But how do you define that? What does it mean? And so I'm going to ask you to think a little bit deeper. And certainly I'm going to give you homework that if you haven't done, you need to do in the process of going through this today. But what do you stand for? When people look at you, do they think of you as a person of real conviction, of strong conviction? Do they think of you as a person with standards in their lives? Or do they think of you as a person that is arrogant or shows off or whatever it might be? We'll talk more about this, because we'll talk about what builds a brand and what destroys, and what builds a quality world-class brand and what destroys a quality world-class brand. And so another important question is, what do you really believe is important? What do you believe is important in life? What do you believe is important in relationships? What do you believe is important in your marriage? What do you believe is important in your family and working with your children? What do you believe is important in our business? What do you believe is important, in leading a team? Your knowledge of yourself here is obviously the determining thing. And to say that it's critical is an understatement. This kind of defines what our life is going to be like. And because that is going to ultimately determine how other people look at you. And so you start thinking about these kinds of questions. Are you honest? Right? Have I made an absolute commitment in my life to be an honest man or woman? Do you care about the people around you? Have you made your decision about that? You are going to care. That doesn't mean you can go around fixing everybody's problems. That caring and taking responsibility for, some of the things around you in terms of other people's lives can be two different things. You can overwhelm your life pretty quickly that way. You've got to be like a doctor, do your very best for them, but understand they showed up sick. You're just doing all you can to improve the situation. But caring about people is a big deal as a leader. Are you positive and enthusiastic? And so now, is that part of your brand? Right? You can think of people that are sincerely enthusiastic, and that, I bet you, almost without any exception of all the people that are on this webinar right now, that you like those people. All right? Now, if someone's too weird, like way over the top, it better be Tony Robbins in a seminar or something. But I'm talking about in day-to-day life, someone who is upbeat, positive, enthusiastic is someone that has a real appeal to the people around them, whether it's just somebody who has a brief interaction with them or somebody who has a longer-term business association or family association. These things of honesty and caring and then being positive, enthusiastic, that sounds like a pretty good brand right there, doesn't it? How about this one? Are you hardworking? Is that part of your brand? People think, hey, that guy's not perfect, but wow, does he or she work hard? People respect that. They admire it. And anyway, come back to it. Are you focused? Another thing that it's interesting, years ago, someone who worked this is in a previous company, who worked for the president and founder of the company, would come out and spend time with you. As you were moving up in the company, the president and the founder of the company wanted to know, really, what kind of person were you? And he'd send out one of his right-hand men. He had two of them, and two very capable leaders in their own right in the field, and they'd kind of come in and become all company people like Monty and Ed and myself are in this company. And one of them would come out, and his first name was Bob, and he spent a couple of days with us. We actually invited him to stay with us, and so he stayed in our home and ate with us, and he sat in on all my appointments and went out in the field with me, and he got a feel for the kind of person I was. And he had done this many times prior to me, and so I was very interested in his feedback. And I asked him, as I was taking him to the airport, and he was heading back to Atlanta, I said, you've seen all these different leaders in the company. You've studied them. What stands out in your mind? And he said, Rich, one of the things that stand out in my mind is your intensity and the focus that goes with your intensity. And about getting things done. And so that was part of my brand. And he noticed it. And it had an impact on him. And he saw how I loved Cindy. And he felt those things. And that definitely is a part of my brand. And now, so we can have lots of different things that are part of our brand. Do you expect to win? Do you love your work? Do you know your stuff? Right? Is competence, part of your brand? Is confidence, two different words, competence and confidence, part of your brand? And people can tell whether you love what you do or not. Is that part of your brand? Now you think about these things we've just gone through here. By no means is it meant to be completely comprehensive. But if you were honest, cared about people, positive, enthusiastic, you worked hard, you're focused, you expected to win, you loved your work, you knew your stuff. Think about what that would mean to your brand as a leader in the business. Would it make you magnetic? Would it make you someone who attracted good people? I think it probably would. But you have to decide how you will be known. That's one of the bottom lines to my message here. You decide how you will be known. If you blow your top and lose your cool, and you do that regularly, you're going to be known for being a hothead, for not being able to control your emotions. People are going to be nervous around you. They're going to be uncomfortable around you. If it's bad enough, they're not going to be around you. And so your brand then would be counterproductive. It wouldn't attract, it would repel. And so let's discuss the concept now that a brand is power, that is powerful in your life. And so let's reflect on these things. Now, when you go back to the previous slide, and I'm not turning back to it, but when you think about the things we described there, I would recommend that you do some homework here. And one of the pieces of homework that you should do, if you haven't already done this kind of work before, then I think it would be a good time to look at it again and ask yourself the question, how am I doing with this? But the homework is, write down 10 attributes and 10 descriptions, if you will, that you'd like to have about your personal brand. And put them down in print. Put them someplace where you can look at them all the time, regularly, at least daily, and reaffirm them to yourself. Let it remind you when you're starting to get a little negative, no, I'm positive. When you start to get flat, you go, no, I'm enthusiastic. When you start to walk by some person that is obviously struggling, you go, no, I care about my teammates. And you stop and you go that extra mile. And et cetera, right? I mean, these are the things that I want to challenge you to do. Put down 10 quality attributes that you want to represent you as your brand. I mean, think about terms, what is your brand in your family? Isn't it interesting sometimes, because I've fell in this trap a few times myself, I work so hard being positive, enthusiastic in the business, praising people, recognize them, then I go home and start criticizing my children. I mean, do the exact opposite of what builds people. And wait, I love them more than anyone. In fact, it was how much I loved them made me tend to want to correct them all the time. And that doesn't work. Criticism's criticism. And you're either building up or tearing down. There's really not much in between. And I was doing a better job building up at work and not as good a job doing that at home, and I caught myself and went to work on changing that. But it was my clarity on my brand that made me think about, okay, am I the same brand in the business as I am at home with Cindy, with our children? Am I the same brand at church? And I wanted to make sure that I was consistent. But these attributes flowed through every area of our lives and of my life. And then Cindy and I realized we had a brand together. We had it as individuals, but we had the brand together. And then kind of teams have brands. We've got teams in the company that have extraordinary brands and some teams that aren't as strong, aren't as respected. And that's, of course, tied to behavior. So, you decide how you'll be known. Now, let's talk a little bit more about this concept that a brand is power. Think about this. It precedes you. It works on your behalf. Now, you hope it is good work, right? But it goes before you. It works on your behalf. Your brand is working for you when you're not there. You know, if you are all these positive things in your brand so that you're respected and appreciated, admired, and enjoyed, then that means people are thinking, I want to bring people to meet this person. I'm excited to introduce my parents to this, my leader in business. I feel good being around them. When they think of you, they think good thoughts. That's powerful. That has an extraordinary influence. And so, it's interesting as we look at this stuff. You know, we don't tend to think in these terms. But the point I want to make again, for better or for worse, your brand precedes you. And it can work on your behalf or work against you. You know, depending on how you look at it. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with people and they kind of struggle with their leader's brand. Who that person is, the way that person treats people. You know, the way the person conducts their life. You know, and so, again, I challenge everybody who's listening to this to really think through, you know, what is preceding you. Next, you can't separate your personal and your business brand. That's why I said I wanted continuity. I wanted to be consistent, faith, family, business. Same person, same attitudes, same quality, you know, approach, dedicated approach to people. Of course, my family gets more of me, you know, because I give my life for my family, just like you. Right? And so there's that level of play. And then there are things that I work on of eternal nature and faith in my service in the church. But then looking at who I am and who I want to continue to be and continue to be becoming, I turn to the business and look for that. And of course, all this wonderful instruction we receive in the business is turn around and bless my family, bless, you know, my ability to do things and serve in our church. So it's just, that's the wonder of it, and you can't separate these things out. You are who you are. I remember a brand can grow, right? You can increase in people's respect and stature as you accomplish things and do better and better and earn more and more and recruit more people and run a big old base shop and build lots of quality leaders and, you know, and people hold you up. That's your brand growing. But integrity there's no such thing as like partial integrity. Just like there's impartial honesty. You know, you got to keep integrity and understanding that aspect of your life has got to remain consistent. You'll evolve in other things. You'll learn to speak better. You'll learn to teach better. You'll learn to present better. You learn to close better, right? You learn to recruit better. You learn to do a better BPM, a better follow-up interview. You learn to get better at getting referrals and helping people with their prospect lists and helping to make contact. You get better at all those things. And your brand grows, and as you increase your competence and your ability and your confidence does grow. But how you conduct yourself, the honesty, the integrity, you know, the respect you show, that needs to remain, get up there and remain consistent. You know, you can't ever shut that part off or you turn off your power. If people don't like and respect you, your brand has powerful, but it's all negative power. You know, it damages you. It holds you back. It hurts you in your relationships with people. One of the things that I think is a worthwhile thing to do as part of your homework, and you think about this, is begin with the end in mind. I mean, what I really mean by that is, what do you want your legacy to be? I mean, who do you know, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, and people are thinking of you. You could still be around or you could be gone. Just like Mother Teresa's gone from this life. But your brand is still powerful. Gandhi, same thing. You know, and and for most of us, we're not going to be famous. We're not going to ripple out through millions or hundreds of millions or billions of people's lives. But we will ripple out through many lives, right? Especially the better leader we become, the more powerful our brand is, the more impact we have in the world around us. But it was certainly going to ripple out through our family for generations. What do you want your legacy to be? I have a great-grandfather. I was talking about him to someone yesterday, to John Cordero. And I didn't have exposure to him. It was my mom's father. But my grandmother talked about her dad a lot, the kind of man he was, the character he had. He accomplished great things in business. My mom, of course, knew him. He had a ranch in Montana, and among his things. And she'd go there and spend time during the summer with her mom. And he had an impact in their lives because of his integrity, because of his work ethic, because of his warm, loving attitude and approach to life. And I get a glow thinking about my great-grandfather, and I never met him. I know what he looks like. I have pictures of him. I think about him. I think what he meant to his daughter, my grandmother, and to his granddaughter, my mom. And because of that, that touched my life, right? And I'm thinking about him right now, and I'm actually feeling a little emotional about it, thinking about who he is and what he stood for, and his brand carried through now generations, even to someone who hadn't met him. See, that's going to be happening for us, one way or another, and wouldn't it be a great thing to do is to really make up your mind that you're going to be that kind of person in the memories and hearts of your family? So what do you want your legacy to be in your family, in your marriage, as a parent? What do you want your legacy to be in your community? What do you want your legacy to be in your church, if that's something that's important to you? What do you want your legacy to be in and through your business? It really is a pretty remarkable thing to stop and think about. And this is getting you to think long term. Again, we exist in a culture, in a world that increasingly thinks moment to moment. And we can hardly be a moment without staring at our device or, create. But what do you want it to be? And anyhow, I just, like I say, I could start preaching a sermon here, and it's not my intent. But let's talk about this again from another perspective. A brand is not a logo. Now, I mentioned that. What is your brand? In other words, you could have a logo. I guess it's your name printed out or your signature. That's probably our logo, right? Distinctly us. Every signature is different, just like our fingerprints, right? But that's not your brand. What's your brand? It's the promises you make and keep. It's the performance you deliver. It's how you treat other people. That's your brand. And that personal conduct, your attitudes, your approach to life, the things you decided you're going to stand for, that's your brand. And I want to encourage you to put your heart into your brand. Some people, part of their brand is they're shy. Well, that used to be one of mine. Part of my brand is I'm pretty private. But I had to get out of myself to be around people in order to lead, in order to make the kind of difference. Because I was more driven, and Cindy and I both are more driven by our desire to do good things with our lives and to help people, right? And to help them do for themselves what they couldn't do without our help. And that means the world to us. And we put our heart into it. I want to encourage you again, put down those attributes. What do you want it to look like for you? And then put your heart into it. And I promise you're going to like what's going to happen if you do that, and what goes on. So let's say now you've done that, right? And you have put those attributes down. And you're working on it diligently. Now, next slide. Stay true to your brand. Now we have a picture of Captain America. Now I know he's personified by this actor and that look, and he was, of course, a comic book character. But he had a brand. Superman has a brand. Truth, justice, and the American way. This kind of stuff. But stay true to your brand. Because understand what represents your brand. You do. You represent your brand. You're it. And again, emphasize. What that means is you're setting the example. That's what staying true to your brand is with some high standards. And your attitude. What kind of aspects of your attitude do you want your brand to represent? Do you take personal responsibility for things? You're not trying to blame or point or whine. You just quietly, confidently take it. You use influence versus authority. Authority is you're the boss, you order them around, you're smarter and better than they are. This is all about influence. In our system, it's not the military, it's not a corporate structure. We're an all-volunteer army. And so we influence people, persuade. We sell them on our viewpoints. We have to be a little more patient to do that. It's easy to order someone around, but that doesn't win their hearts. It doesn't even win their cooperation. And so you think about, okay, what is my brand? Is patience part of my brand? Is my drive to influence as opposed to just tell people what to do? That part of my brand. Do I tend to try and shirk responsibility for stuff? Or do I stand up to it and say, yeah, that's mine, for better or for worse, whether you made a mistake or you did something great? Your appearance is part of your brand. Would you buy from or want to follow somebody who looked like you? This has nothing to do with being pretty or handsome, right? This is more towards clean and neat, and look somebody in the eye, and what's your body language? Do you slump? You standing up tall? These things matter. Presence, I'll call it, is the next one. So we have attitude, appearance, presence. I'm talking about charisma. For example, using public speaking. You don't need to be able to speak like Ed Milet or Tony Robbins or a number of other really good speakers in our company. But if you have a presence in the sense of you do look up, you've learned over time, to get out of your own way. In other words, be an effective public speaker, or a speaker in front of a group, or effective teacher, really just needs a couple of things, but they have to have this in order to have, for your speaking style, have charisma and power. One, you've got to have conviction about what it is you're talking about. If you have absolute conviction about something, then how you speak about it, it changes, it transforms. You need sincerity, right? I'm actually going to give a few here. And that kind of can come with conviction. And I think you need to be fairly positive, not absurdly positive. Again, not Tony Robbins positive, not I'm going to be your life coach positive, but you are upbeat. You are positive. Now, if you can throw a little bit of humor in there, being willing to make fun of yourself a little bit too, that's going to be a pretty good thing. People enjoy listening to you. When you stand up to talk, they're looking forward to what you have to say and how you're going to say it. And so you don't need some dramatic example, of some amazing personal appearance or, Armani suits. It's about conviction, sincerity, being upbeat, knowing your stuff. That gives you a powerful presence. But I want to mention something about something else, like social media. Social media can be a way to represent your brand. And I wish a lot of you would be a lot more careful about how you represent yourself. You know, we'll look at stuff, and of course the company looks at stuff, and Cindy kind of keeps me more informed, but she'll show me examples of stuff. People just whine or be in public, Facebook or these other places and talking about how their children are such a pain in the rear, and my gosh, the dirty laundry and crap people put out, it's unbelievable. But I hope it does them some good, because it sure is not a fun representation of their brand. But I have a fundamental thought: don't be an idiot on social media. I mean, that's really my standard for that. And you understand you were in a business too that has legal and compliance requirements, and I see people do videos, and man, what they think is cool is sometimes so shallow and so superficial. Ick. You feel like you got slimed in that Ghostbusters by that creature. Just to see Slimer. In fact, that was the creature's name. You did that. Your nickname on social media should not be Slimer. That would be interesting. And so, be careful what you put on there. In other words, let's say you've done your homework, you've done your 10 attributes, and they're good things, and they tend toward noble things and helping people. Please make wherever you are a decent representation of those attributes. Like for example, I know some people like to represent themselves around their cars, their stuff, whatever it is. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, as long as it's very clearly a byproduct of your strength of character, of your drive to help people, of your care and concern, that it's not, look at me, I got a big ego, everybody think I'm special, because greatness isn't contained there. You can accomplish things, major things with a big ego. Plenty of examples of that. But the great things are accomplished by people who have, first and foremost, in their heads and their hearts, their desire to serve their fellow man. To build them, to lift them, to help them, and again, stating one of our core values for Cindy and I, our desire to help people do things that they wouldn't be able to do without our help. We recently ran into this extraordinary program that works with veterans who come back with post-traumatic stress syndrome, and it disrupts their lives and hurts their marriages, and a lot of them then end up with drugs. They self-medicate to try and deal with the pain. And it's interesting, in the military, you train and you train and you train and you train and you train, and then you get out, they give you a couple hours orientation, and you're on your own. And this wonderful woman and her husband, she's a psychologist. Sometimes I get confused between psychiatrists and psychologists. But anyway, and has developed a real ability here, and has put together a team of people that work with small groups at a time. They've had a wonderful impact of their lives. But they work with these people in this group. They run them through an orientation, and they work with every individual in this group for a year. And if they need help in marriage counseling, they need help, in any area, they work with them to get it for a year. If they need coaching financially, if they need help with addiction recovery, they did do all of it. And to get them to a place where they can have peace and they can cope and they can have successful relationships again, and have a joyful life, some happiness in their life. The suicide rate now, it's like 22 a day our veterans are committing. It just breaks my heart for these people. and it's such a privilege to assist in giving resources to these people to help them literally save these people's lives, certainly saving marriages, and that ripples out again through generations. And I like doing that because we know what we stand for, and it's a brand. I ran into something else where they help rehab houses in tough neighborhoods and help people understand. They work with them afterwards. Anyway, I don't have time to describe all this, but we kind of look for these things, that allow people to rebuild themselves and to increase in their confidence and their optimism and their belief that they can have a great life. So represent yourself that way if you're going to represent it. I didn't grow up in a time of social media. I built our family fortune, without social media's help at all. We did it through personal contact and personal relationships and live communication. And you can't ever tell me, and no one who really knows this stuff, even the most enamored of it, wouldn't try and defend, I don't think, that you can build a great relationship through this stuff. I think you can get leads. I think you can project the good that you do, and I think you should. All right? No question. But I'm going to come back to the fundamental standard. Try not to be an idiot. Try not to be superficial and just shallow and materialistic or things like that in relation to who you are. Be a little clear what you stand for. Now you might put down, I stand for materialism. I stand for pride and arrogance, whatever. Then you'd represent that, I guess. But you've got to be careful. And because that's going to continue to represent you just like the rest of your brand. When you're asleep, and when you're somewhere else, when you're no longer there, you're putting that out there. And so be careful of it. If you don't think you have a very good perspective on what attracts people, why don't you do yourself a favor and ask somebody who does have a feeling for that, who can guide you a little bit. But read good books. Think about wholesome things. And make sure that's how you represent yourself. There you go. I don't suppose everybody agrees with that, but I want you to know I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about that, because I know this is right. And I know that's the kind of brand that has a broad appeal. Now, I guess nothing wrong with people who professionally are focusing on just appealing to one age group and that kind of thing, and they conduct themselves accordingly. That's simple choice, business choice, like what products are you going to represent to the marketplace, right? Because you could represent baby food and you'd be focused on one market, and you could represent high-end cars, you'd be focused on a very different market, right? And I get that. But stay true to your brand. Make it special, and make it for real, and make it fundamentally good, and then stay true to it. All right. Now, the last thing I wanted to put down on this page was character, of course, and the absolute resolve you have internally to do what is right. And wouldn't it be nice if every time somebody thought of you, they thought you did what is right? I don't know that that's going to be able to be possible because we don't always do what is right, and sometimes we have to repent and we have to apologize and make restitution when we screw up something. But that's okay because the overwhelming majority of people, are fairly forgiving, and especially when they see you change and not do it again, and that you were sincere, and you're wanting to turn that wrong into a right. And so that's what I mean about the two words absolute resolve to do what is right. And you put those things down, attitude, appearance, presence, and character, and that, I think, it represents you. That's your brand. Now let's talk about blowing up your brand. We, of course, show a bomb going off and a mushroom cloud coming up. Very dramatic picture about blowing up your brand. And so now I have the benefit of a perspective of decades. I've watched, and I've been in business with people that to me had a wonderful brand. I mean, it really meant a lot to me. I think back to one of my early mentors, and I just respected so much his brand, the way he was around his wife, his family, and the team, and his accomplishments, and his confidence, and his competence, and his work ethic, and all those things. And I saw him as an honest man, and all that stuff. And then I was in business with, and then you look, and I've watched some of those people, and I've watched, by the way, if you don't notice, if you're looking at the picture of that mushroom cloud, see if you notice the face and the mouth and the kind of the clown look in that explosion, where you end up, your brand is you're a clown, which actually wouldn't be the worst brand you could have. But let's talk about how you blow up your brand. Because I watched a leader of mine just blow up his brand. Just blow it up. Blew it up with me, blew it up with thousands of others. And let's talk about the things that help you blow it up. Let's say you have a pretty good brand right now and you say, dang it, Rich, I want to blow up my brand. In other words, I want to be known as a loser, a deadbeat, and a pain in the rear. I go, okay, here's your coaching then. Ready? This is what you got to do. Be greedy. Be greedy. Mine, mine, mine. Like the seagulls in Nemo, Finding Nemo. Being greedy. Being arrogant and bragging a lot. Let's just go with greedy, arrogance, and bragging. That's awesome, right? That's blowing up your brand, unless you want to be known for being a greedy, arrogant bragger. Then, of course, you're nailing it, right? So let's keep an eye on this. Let's say you put people down. You go around just putting people down. Somebody does something pretty good, and you go, yeah, but they're this, and they're that, and they're this, and they're that. I mean, we all know some folks like this. I have some regular association with people that struggle. We all struggle. But in some people, you're just going to get a more negative output because they just don't feel good enough about themselves. And so that doesn't leave them much energy left to feel good about other people. How about lying and cheating? Right? So now we really got a great one going. Greedy, arrogant, braggart, putting people down, you lie and you cheat. Woo! Man, this is sweet. This is good. We got a criminal growing here. Consistently selfish. Right? So it's about you. Right? Okay, I don't need to develop this a whole lot more. You don't keep your promises. So you want to blow up your brand? Just stop keeping promises. Be selfish. Lie to them some. Cheat them some. Put them down. Be arrogant. Brag. And then be greedy. They'll love you. You'll be so popular. If you had a team, you'll turn around and go, where did they go? That happened to a guy I was in business with, like I said. And one day he turned around and we were all gone. Nobody wanted to be in business with him anymore. And that ended it. This isn't as severe, but it has, in terms of seeming so negative, but it has a real impact on your brand. Lack of conviction. Remember I said in order to be powerful in front of people, you need conviction about what you're talking about. If you lack conviction, that'll blow up your brand too. And then you'll notice I put it in print this time. Being an idiot on social media will blow up your brand. Then you can share it with thousands, right? And you can get a shirt. Of course, we all can wear this shirt at times, but because we've all been idiots before. But all of us have. I eagerly wish to acknowledge that, so you don't think I'm sitting here with a holier-than-thou attitude, guys. But certainly after all these years, I've had some practice on kind of what not to say, what not to project, to understand what is shallow and that kind of stuff. And so avoiding being an idiot on social media, all it does is multiply your mistakes. And that's why I feel sorry for people who are in the public eye all the time. who speak for a living, and the camera's on them. And so once you've said something stupid, it's just out there forever. Well, this is some of you and what you put out on social media. You know? Yeah, yes. We have always been vigilant. We were very vigilant over our children's social media. And because we caught some things right away when they posted something stupid. Not terrible, but stupid. And would you write right on it, take it down. Let's talk about what that does for you and your brand. We didn't probably say the word brand, but how others look at you and how others perceive you. You know, is this really how you want to represent yourself? Now, you're not brilliant at 14 about that kind of stuff, or 16. Sometimes we're not brilliant at 60. But the reality is, if you can exercise some self-control, and you know what? If you're not sure you should post it, you probably shouldn't, right? That's your instincts trying to warn you. That's your conscience maybe trying to warn you. You are about to have an idiot attack and do yourself and your family and the company some damage. You know, I look at what a lot of people do in social media today and that are representing our company, and they do it incorrect. You know, you're part of WFG. You don't represent Transamerica Financial Services. That doesn't even exist. You know, you're not securities licensed. You're not a Transamerica Financial Advisor rep. You know, I mean, you worry about just be you and make sure you have those attributes and you're living them, and you're going to be just fine. That's the brand people are going to respond to. And so some teams, they get a certain size, they build a brand and have a logo and enjoy that experience, and that's fun. I like that. That's free enterprise. All right, but I've spent quite a bit of time on this, ragging about this, because you know what I picture? This is not the classiest thing. Let's say you have a swimming pool and your family swims in it. You have a bunch of friends over, and most of them decide to pee in your pool. You know, that's I'd resent that. So would you. It's gross. It'd be disgusting and certainly annoying. It would be thoughtless, and it would impact more people than just you. And that's what social media is like. It's a big, giant swimming pool, and everybody jumps in it, right? You know, and I'd like everybody listening to this call, and I'd like you to talk about it with your teams too, that, hey, it'd be nice if someone wasn't peeing in your pool, or worse, right? Or worse. And that doesn't need any more description. So that's something I was determined to emphasize when it came to your brand right now. And so don't represent that I put down social media. I don't. I'm a supporter of it. I'm going to strengthen my brand on it. But don't be a dope on it, you know, and enough said. The brand of integrity is a lifetime project, guys. I don't know if I got that from somewhere or just said it myself. It doesn't matter, but I like it. The brand of integrity is a lifetime project. It's kind of like power to, you know, an automobile engine or to an appliance of some kind. If you unplug it, it stops working. And if you unplug from integrity, your life's going to stop working well. I've said before, you want a smooth life, live smoothly, right? If you want a life that stays pretty positive and lots of good things continue to happen in it, then you keep that brand of integrity. You understand you can't ever turn that one off. You can't unplug from the power source of fundamental goodness and honesty and integrity. That is a lifetime project and pursuit. All right. I hope we're getting some good things out of this. I hope that you're taking this to heart. I hope you'll do that homework. I hope you'll work on it. It'll bless every area of your life. All right. Let's announce the next one because it's not too far from now. It's March 14th. We're here at the end of, what is today? It's the 28th, the end of the month of February. So 14 days away, 2 weeks. We've got a webinar I frankly wish I could start going through right now. I'm eager to do this one. You know, it's interesting. My life has been hugely impacted by some mentors in my faith and church, mentors when I was a boy, of course, my parents, my father. I was mentored by. I had a Boy Scout troop guy, whatever that, Scoutmaster. I did it. I knew I did. Thanks, Trevor. That one had gone from my mind for a second. And he was a wonderful man. And he took a personal interest and spent time. Coach, he actually taught me how to play chess and some of those things, you know, and had me around his family. And he had a wonderful impact that season. I can think of a teacher, my junior year of high school, an English teacher of all things. He had a wonderful impact on my life. Ended up dating his daughter. I'm not sure he's excited about that as he was about the other mentoring me in the class. But I became part of his family, you know, and it was pretty cool. And it's interesting. I remember when he passed away, and I heard about it, and I heard about it several years after he did. I cried a little bit because of how good a man he was, and the real positive influence he had on my life. We all have a chance to be those people in other people's lives, and I want to talk to you about mentoring. I also want to talk to you about how to be mentored, right? Because some people struggle with that. You get exposed to a mentor, you don't even. And you're so bad at being mentored, you're so inept at it, you never get mentored, you know. And when you close that out of your life, it's a tragedy. You know, I had 2 mentors in this business, and they changed everything. I made no serious mistakes because of it. And if I started on a path that was counterproductive, they were quick to catch me, and because I was always running everything that I was doing by them. And they said, no, don't go that way. Handle it this way. And that stuff, and again, if you see this visually, it has the words motivation and coaching and direction and training and success and advice and all these things that go into mentoring. But I want to spend some time because I think I have a handle on this, on how to be a good mentor for others and how to be a good mentee, if you will, you know, until such time as you can become a great mentor. So I'm eager to do that. I'm looking forward to it. So that is going to be the second Wednesday of March, March 14th, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All right, we got it. We have done it. Thanks for spending this time with me. I want it to be of value. I want you to know I sure take it seriously. And as always, thank you for being in business with us. Thanks for working at this. Thanks for making your contribution. And I work hard not to take it for granted. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you again in a couple weeks. Bye.